Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar today, joint hosted with Elecosoft and Acumine. We're going to be talking about transforming your planning data into portfolio intelligence. I'll be going through a bit about what that means in a minute. Just for starters, we're using GoToWebinar today, so you'll find in the GoToWebinar panel a place to ask questions and chat. Please do ask questions as we're going through. We'll be picking those up at the end and putting those to the panelists. So yeah, let us know if there's any problems as well in there with sound or video. So this is the agenda for today. We're going to start off with some welcome and introductions to our panelists on the line. Then we'll be looking at, I guess, starting at the very end of the end goal about where we want to get to with our data and how the future of scheduling and planning will change in an AI-driven era. So that'll be with our data capability manager, Daniel Hewson, here at Elecosoft. He'll be looking at a bit of future gazing about where we think we can get to. Then we'll be handing over to our product value manager, David Lawrence, who will be looking at how we're enabling that at the moment with one of our key products in the Asta suite, which is Asta Vision, and how that should be a key part of your data strategy moving forward if you have the ambition to get to where Daniel is envisioning we will go as an industry. And then finally, we've invited one of our partners along, Acumine, to show how we can make use of that data today. So just getting good organized data in Vision isn't the end game. Obviously, Daniel will show us some really cool stuff that they can do with getting deeper insights into that data once you've got it organized. We can move on, David. Yeah, so I've probably gone through who everyone is, but you can see them on the line. They'll introduce themselves in a bit more detail as we go through the webinar. And yeah, we'll let them introduce themselves. So first of all, you probably know us as Elecosoft for Asta, and specifically for Asta Power Project, the desktop application used for scheduling. But what you might not know is that there's a much deeper suite within there around things like 4D data management, site progress capture, and one of those things is what we're going to be concentrating on today, which is our planning CDE in Asta Vision and how that can help shape your data strategy and move you down through the data maturity levels and help you on your projects. Next slide, David. So a little bit about us. Solution providers providing software, consultancy, training across the built environment. 75% of all building projects use our solutions in some way, and 90% of UK contractors do. So you're probably going to see a lot of projects down there that you recognise on our recent projects, things like Tottenham Stadium, Everton Stadium, Co-op Live Arena, Battersea Power Station, were all done by our customers using Asta. But what you might not realise is that there is a wider ecosystem within Elecosoft outside of the Asta suite. Everything from cost estimation through to asset management, and even more recently moving into custom software development and consulting and recruitment. So if any of that is of interest to you as well, you want to learn more about that, do reach out to us after the webinar. We won't be going into any more detail on it today. So now I'm going to hand over to Daniel, who'll be talking us through why data will shape the future of scheduling and planning in an AI-driven era.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew. Can you just go to the next slide, David? So just a little bit of background about myself first. I'm the Data Capability Manager at Elecosoft. So basically what that means is I'm a data science by background and training. I look across a suite of products and work out where can we integrate machine learning and artificial intelligence in the products. And really critically to this, and really important to this talk, is what do our clients and our users have to do to start getting ready, and what processes can we have to make sure that that data is actually in the state it needs to be in for artificial intelligence, right? So in this talk, I want to go over just a generalized sort of taking a step back and looking at, as an industry, what are the challenges we face, and then therefore why that we want AI and ML to sort of come in. And critical to that is pointing out, if we want to use these things to build better workflows to help us catch things out ahead of time earlier and be able to work more efficiently, is that AI and ML, machine learning, don't work without data. And it's really critical that you have good data. And that's why platforms such as Vision and tools such as Acumine are really critical in that they help you actually visualize your data and make sure you have the right processes. Finally, we'll touch a little bit about why BIM data is critical for this and why vision and reporting now is really essential. Can you go to the next slide, David? So first, why is it that we want AI? What are the challenges that face the industry? And on the right there, you can see a chart that shows an analysis by the McKinsey Global Institute, and it shows basically productivity, right? And you can see that everywhere we've gotten these amazing leaps and bounds of productivity, and construction, I'd say surprisingly, but all of you that work in construction, this won't be a surprise. We've actually gone backwards slightly in terms of productivity, right? We're still working just as hard to do the same things that we were doing 20, 30 years ago. So something has to change. And I'd argue one of the big things that are going to drive that change is going to be AI and machine learning. And the question might arise, why is it that we have these problems? What is it causing us to be unproductive while other industries aren't? And I think there's a couple of really critical things. First is that there's poor reliability, right? When we're making schedules, there's a lot of optimism bias in there. There's lots of pressure to win a tender on, so we all tend to estimate a little bit too lean and mean, and then that does come back and bite people. The risk inherent in projects is quite complicated. The projects we're working on now are much bigger than they've ever been before, and that makes it very hard to sort of drive in and understand where that risk is. And then finally, we've got low experience per person and the workforce actually shrinking. So all of that is why we've got less productivity and people working harder than they've ever worked before to basically get what they can out of their information. Can you go to the next slide, David? So that brings us to why do we want AI machine learning? And I think from that setup, it's pretty obvious, right? We're not very productive and we want to be more productive. So where we currently sit in terms of software is most software does what I call solvable problems, where you have a problem, you can describe how you'd like it solved, and it'll go away and do that. But a lot of problems don't fit into this broad category. What machine learning does is it moves it from I can describe to you exactly how you're going to solve that problem to give me some examples of the problem and some solutions. So did this project get delayed or not? How long did this activity take? And with enough sufficient good data, you can actually train a model to say, oh, this project, it's going to be delayed. Or actually, this is what I think your end date is going to be. Or this is sort of the output of whatever your project or metric might be. And then finally, what we're going to hopefully work towards one day, with artificial general intelligence, maybe, or even just agents, is moving to problems that are describable. So we no longer have to have examples of something. So that's obviously very advantageous, but we'll be able to say to our tools, hey, can you go and build me a what if scenario if we reconfigure how we're going to do the concrete pours, if we reconfigure how we're going to do the commissioning steps. So that's really why we want AI and ML, is that it's going to enable planners and schedulers to do so much more and help us recover from that time risk. And it's also going to enable us to build models that will actually hopefully forecast, hey, you're going to be delayed. This is not a realistic time frame. So you're actually going to be able to get in the process a lot earlier and see problems ahead of time. Can you go to the next slide, David? So in order to do this, data is really critical. So I want to highlight this with sort of like the basic, baby's first machine learning model, which is quite fitting because babies learn to do this quite well. And it's a model that counts the numbers it identifies the numbers 0 through to 9. This is a very simple task. Almost all of you watching this can do this, or all of you, I'd hope. And it's something that we learn to do with children, and we can do very, very easily. And we can do it without seeing that many examples. Now, this data set is quite a famous data set. It has 60,000 training examples. And in practice, one of the reasons you use it is you learn, you need to augment the data. You need to build more examples to train a model. Because even 60,000 examples isn't quite enough to get models to get at that tippity top level of performance. So in practice, I did some ballpark maths, and I worked out that I'd probably end up with 11 million with just some very simple data augmentation techniques. That sort of scale you need to solve a problem with machines of which number am I looking at, right? This is something that everyone can do. Children can do it, toddlers can do it. Those of you that have toddlers know they're not the brightest sparks, so they do silly things. They can do this, right? Humans, we can do it very easily. Machines take a lot of effort. Now, if we move to schedules, can you go to the next slide, David? Consider your project. I've got a very toy example down the bottom there, but think of a project you've worked on. How complex is it? How much information is there in there? It's a lot, right? It's a much harder task to understand what is causing my delay than the simple task of identifying which number am I looking at. So the important thing is here, you need large amounts of data, and really critically, you need good quality data. So for example, we worked with some clients and we actually looked at their historical data sets, and digging through the actual schedules they had, we found that their back catalogs, about 80% of them had garbage data. They were what if scenarios, they were random tender packages that weren't realistic and not the final thing submitted to the client. They weren't a realistic view of what was going to happen or what had happened on site. So if you've got this 80% of schedules that are not really useful, it's going to be very hard to train models to try to actually predict what's going to go wrong. So that's where processes around the data become really critical. Can you go to the next slide, David? And just to highlight this, I think this should be background. Just to highlight how critical this data problem is, this is sort of like the machine learning workflow. So from problem definition all the way up to deployment. And what you find is that actually most of the workflow that goes from training things like ChatGPT, generative AI models, whatever it may be, Google Maps, they use it to predict how long it's going to take for you to get to work. 75% of that workflow is in the data. So I can't emphasize enough how having good workflows around data and actually using your data now today, so you can see that you've maybe got some holes in your process, there's some loopholes, there's a few bits of garbage information getting in there. That's really critical, because the sooner you start using it, the sooner you're going to be starting to build a really robust data set that's not going to need as much data cleaning, that's going to be ready to go and ready to use. Can you go to the next slide? So what about planning data? What are the real problems in planning data? I gave one good example before, which is that we found 80% of project information is useless. So right there, it's all about data quality and making sure that you actually have robust checks. Is this the final for the week or the actual project that was submitted to the client? Is this our current accurate measure of reality of what's happening? And that's where things like vision workflows are really critical. Next is the piece around data consistency. If you're working in a big organization or even a small one, right, everyone knows that every single planner has their own way of doing things and every project has its own way of doing things. It's really critical to bring consistency and structure if organizations want to learn from their entirety of depth of knowledge, right? And the way you do that is with code libraries. Code libraries, and you can use global code libraries in Vision, allow you to standardize good practices and good naming so that you can actually build more sophisticated reports around things. And finally, there's the piece about data relevance. So for us, that's one example is using things like 4D and in particular BIM data. That's going to allow you to actually make better predictions about what's going to happen. You can imagine if a model is trying to predict how long a certain activity should take, if it's just reading a Gantt chart, that's a very limited bit of information to go on. That's not quite enough for it to make a realistic, accurate forecast. A human couldn't, right? There are some things you could forecast accurately, and there are some things that you couldn't forecast. So BIM data is critical. And more than that, there's more relevant data that you might need, right? It's important to use platforms that actually allow you to bring in different information from within your organization and link it up to your project so you can actually draw the conclusions you need, and therefore models can draw the conclusions that they need. Next slide. So just to summarize, data quality is everything in AI. Construction projects, by their very nature, all of us who have worked in construction know that construction data and projects are inherently chaotic. There's delays, there's random bits of information. Bringing that structure is really critical, and that will enable you to have a data set that's very robust and useful for these future models and workflows that we're helping to build. Vision in particular is really useful in building up processes around your data so that you know that you actually have good data ready to go. And 4D is really critical as well, and that it'll enable models to be even more accurate than what you could do with just a schedule. If you're not using 4D, I would really suggest that you start looking at it as an organization and how you can actually incorporate it in your process. And then finally, make sure that you're using tools to actually report on your data. You need to actually visualize it. You need to work out where the warts are and start trying to work to fix it. So with that, I'll hand over back to the team and they'll show you a few things that you can do.
Thanks, Daniel.
With that.
Really great presentation. Just a reminder, guys, keep those questions coming in. We're going to save them all to the end, just see how much time we've got to get through them. But any questions for Daniel on his thoughts on AI and where it's heading with the industry, get them in. We have an interesting conversation at the end between the panel. So over to David now. who's going to look at how we are supporting some of that and dig into a bit more detail on what Daniel started with Asta Vision and our data management strategy. Thanks,
yeah, thanks, guys. So I think the key message there from Daniel was all about consistency of data in terms of how we get value out of the data that we're putting into the AI and the machine learning. So the way we do that is by using our Asta Vision system. And there's some 6 different things here that kind of fall into like 3 different categories ultimately. So being able to store all of our projects in one place, that's going to enable consistency, making sure we've got a single source of truth. Time saving, we're going to be able to keep everything in one place, have our dashboards all streamlined. Benchmarking, so being able to compare like-for-like projects together. So I'll show you shortly how Vision works and how we can group projects together by region, by type, by size of project. And then also collaboration, so how you can work on a project together with your team across different areas of your business without the need for a program to be on one machine versus another. So how do we unlock this value? Firstly, standardized data and workflows. So Daniel was talking there about Vision workflows and how that keeps our data consistent. Data health, making sure that our data is accurate and current. When we work with people to harness their data, we try to look at what the best data is, remove any data that's not going to be helpful, and then just use that data for our learnings. Collaborative workflows. So our Vision system can create a workflow where your project can go through separate stages and sign off and approval to make sure that it's compliant at each step of that process. And then also reporting. So we create automated dashboards that provide real-time visibility over your project and schedule health so that you've got continuous improvement. So challenges that we overcome and opportunities that we unlock. So integration, the way that data can be siloed and inconsistent, we obviously change that. Compliance, we make project revision management easier to track through the Vision platform. So I've got some quotes from some of our clients that you'll see shortly, but for them, this has been a game changer in terms of single source of truth, everything being in one place, full transparency. Project director, program directors love the way that they can see all of their projects at a glance, where they're at, what the current revision is, and what stage that particular project is at as well. And then obviously the collaboration sort of things, everybody being able to work together from that same single source of truth is a bit of a game changer for our customers. I've got some quotes here that you'll be able to see from some of our customers. I'm not going to go into too much detail about these, but the message here is in terms of falling into that same category that we talked about. Single source of truth, collaboration, everything in one place. Been an absolute game changer for some of our customers. Prior to using Vision, it's been tricky to manage this process, keeping everything in one place and know where everything's at. So next, I'm going to quickly show you what Vision looks like. So you'll understand how we can implement this in your business. So how we regiment these global code libraries, everything in one place, and then maintaining our revisions. So just 1 second, I'll bring up another screen. Need more screens open. Bear with me 1 sec, guys. Okay, you should be able to see this now. This is our Vision platform. When I sign into this one, I don't know why I'm signed out. I was signed in 5 minutes ago. 1 second. This is our demo Vision platform. So projects here are in different statuses. But if I go into my project list here, you'll see that I've got all of my different projects, and I can filter this. I can choose what filters I want to go into here and choose which filters to bring up on my projects. I can see what my latest program type is, what my current revision is, which sector and region these projects are in. I can go into one of my projects, and then in here I can click on revisions. In here I can see contract programs. I've got baselines in here. I can filter these as well by different classifications. So I've got really good ways of being able to tailor this particular project. If I jump back to that project as well again here, you'll be able to see that it's going through a workflow. So it's currently at construction stage. And I can go into each of these different stages to see where that project is at. And then down here, you can see where it's at within the contract workflow. And I can download different versions of these to be able to interact with them as well. And then in our admin, I can also manage program types. So in here, I can create different program types and restrict who can interact with these different program types as well. And we've got a whole admin section around user roles and permissions. So we can control the way that people use the software in different ways. Yeah, that's a quick snapshot of the Vision platform. Andrew, is there anything else I should be covering here, do you think?
No, I think that's all good. I mean, and then from there, obviously, there are workflows enabling us to push that data out to BI databases, which leads us very nicely on to Daniel's presentation. So that BI database becomes available to you or external parties to be able to create insights into your data. And one of the ways you can do that is by partnering or working with our partners at Acumine. So yeah, Daniel, over to you to show you how people can use this really well structured data in your solution.
Fantastic, and yeah, thank you for the introduction there. David, are you okay to change me to a presenter so I can share my
You
screen?
should have control now, sir. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think you shared it with the wrong Daniel, David.
Oh, did I? Apologies.
Yeah, it came up with a pop-up for me.
I didn't have the people wide enough. 1 second. Right, try that again. There we go.
That's great. Thank you very much. So just a little bit about myself. Yeah, Daniel Maddox. I'm a director and co-founder at Acumine. My background is in construction. So I trained as an engineer. I've been an engineer in my past life, work package manager, temporary works manager, appointed person. So I've got some construction experience, but for the last 7 years of my career, I've been working with construction data on behalf of multiple tier one contractors, and have gained a lot of experience probably in the last 5 years, I'd say, working with data from Asta Power Project and more recently Asta Vision, which has been fantastic. Just a little bit about Acumine. So Acumine provide intelligent data-driven solutions on behalf of our customers. We offer professional services and consultancy around data strategy, project management in relation to data projects, but we also do actually provide out-of-the-box integrations and solutions, such as the one I'll be showing you shortly. Our integration and dashboard capability with Asta Vision out of the box. Just in terms of who we work with, so we do work with a number of tier one contractors. We've generally operated at the portfolio level. So when we've been helping these organizations integrate with Asta data, generally we've been helping them get better insight from that data at the senior leadership and portfolio level. But equally, we've always had projects at the heart of everything that we do. So giving extra capability and insights to project teams also. The reason why Acumine exists and really what we focus on is over the course of maybe the last decade or so, there's been a huge proliferation in the number of softwares that are available in the marketplace. And all of these softwares are fantastic. They deliver a lot of value to projects, but senior leaders have always struggled, I guess, to gain control of all of the data that sits within these applications. So, you know, consultancies like Acumine help these organizations to bring all of that data together in a modern data platform. Quite often those data platforms can sit within a customer's environment, and we help that customer to develop that data platform. Equally, Acumine have the ability to deploy and host data platforms on behalf of customers also. But the real benefits of bringing all of that data into a central data platform is that we can then help customers visualize that data in dashboards and reports, perhaps people on the call will be familiar with Microsoft Fabric and Power BI. We can also integrate that data to other applications, so we can have two-way integrations between the organization and those SaaS platforms that they're using. And equally, we lay the foundations then for data science and artificial intelligence. And I would just like to reiterate the point around data quality. Obviously, within these data platforms, we do build in a number of data quality checks and the ability to augment data with those checks and to enrich that data and improve it as well. So, really important point. Just in terms of our offering, what I'll be showing you today is our demonstration of what we call an Asta base product. So our base products are something that we can deploy out of the box. Like generally the functionality is compatible with any implementation of Asta Vision, for example, would be compatible with any construction program, so long as you have a baseline and you're recording progress. All of the functionality I'll show you today will be compatible, with any Asta Vision file within that platform. But beyond that, obviously, if you improve your data quality, you have consistency across your portfolio. Perhaps you might be working in very bespoke ways within your organization. We then have the ability to help you customize those base solutions so that they work better for you and better for your workflows. And then we also help organizations, as I alluded to earlier, integrate data from multiple different sources. So that's a very bespoke service. We provide a whole professional services and consultancy approach to supplementing construction schedule data with commercial data, with quality data, health and safety, so on and so forth. But as I mentioned, we'll be very much focusing on the base solution in this demonstration. And for that base solution, I mentioned that Acumine can host it on your behalf, and our tool of choice is Microsoft Fabric and Microsoft Azure. That also gives us the ability then to benefit from all of the investment that Microsoft are pumping into these data products. Not least the investment in artificial intelligence, your co-pilots, your Azure data science platforms within the Foundry. I won't dwell on that too much, but essentially we help you lay the right foundations to benefit from that future opportunity. So without further ado, I think I'd just like to give you a live demonstration of a Microsoft Fabric dashboard, if you like, in terms of how we can help you visualize your data within Asta Vision. So here's one I made earlier. Essentially what I'm presenting here is a Power BI dashboard hosted within Microsoft Fabric, which has a direct integration into what would be a customer's instance of Asta Vision. And this is something we've done for a number of tier 1 contractors at the portfolio level. Quite often, the contractor might have preset ideas or wireframes as to how they would like their portfolio view to look. And as I mentioned before, we can customize it completely. We have access to all of the data within Vision that you're generating through your schedules, and all of this can be customized. But in terms of what we've got here out of the box, is a portfolio view of all of the projects within that customer's tenant. We have the ability to very quickly get some extra context around each of these projects, and I'll come on to this functionality in a moment. David alluded to the different program types you can set up within Asta Vision. I think the most common that we come across are obviously delivery and contract, or construction and contract. So you've got your contract program, but you're also measuring against a target delivery program. Again, you have the ability to track projects against both versions of that. Equally, we've got examples here of pre-construction. Some customers have PCSA program types. That's all completely customizable within Vision. and is also compatible with this base solution that I'm presenting here. Very quickly, because I know I've got a lot to get through here, but basically what I can see from looking at this portfolio view is this particular project here is currently tracking 11 days ahead of program, and that's measured against the activity day count, and you can see that visualized there as an S-curve. Again, I'll demonstrate that in more detail when we get to the S-curve page, but in actual fact that program is still scheduling or forecasting to finish on that delivery end date. We've got other examples down here, which my eye is a bit more drawn to. This particular project down here is tracking 91 days behind at this point in time, but they're actually forecasting to finish the project 4 days ahead of schedule. So, yeah, obviously you can look at that program in a little bit more detail and understand, how they're going to achieve that by digging into the data a little bit deeper. We give you the ability to obviously filter by the different program types. As David mentioned, you can organize your Asta vision by business units or regions, sectors, so on and so forth. And again, all of that is compatible in terms of how we can filter the dashboard at the portfolio level. We also give row level security, which is a permissions type, which allows you to control access to projects within the dashboard. Generally, that's managed as global access, as business unit or region access, or indeed at the project level. So you can have a single dashboard that caters for every individual within the business. Going down a little bit deeper into the project level data, so I'm just going to use this demo project here to demonstrate some of the other functionality that we have. I'm going to drill through into that demo project 1. Again, different contractors can have different ideas of what they'd like to see in terms of project on a page. We've just developed an out-of-the-box example. In this case, we've got a current view of the critical activities. So that's your current critical path and the links between them. We've got some information here around the forecast end variance, so I can see when the project is scheduled to finish, and I can also see what the next 10 critical activities are that are upcoming, just in text format. So all of this is automatically generated. We've got the S-curve. I'll explain that more in a moment. We can see the buildup of WIP. So these are activities which have started but haven't finished. We've got a resource histogram and also some information here around schedule health. In terms of other functionality, so generally the organizations that we work with, they like the dashboard because it allows them to communicate the project to other stakeholders that wouldn't necessarily understand how to use a 100-page schedule, for example, whether that be PDF or within Asta. We can present them with basic Gantt charts, again, just visualizing the program, but for a wider user base. So what we're doing here is visualizing each of the summary bars within the program, with the ability then to drill down as you would within Asta itself. As an example here, I can see that block B is currently 37% progressed. At this point in time, it should have been 56% progressed according to the baseline. So it's tracking a little bit behind there, and we can see that visualized in terms of that shading. I mentioned there's a critical path view, so that's just a way of visualizing those critical activities that are upcoming. So this particular critical path seems to run through, well, as you'd expect, really, but yeah, testing and commissioning, snagging, so on and so forth. And then typically, projects are required to report on key milestones. So depending on how you code the program, you potentially have a code that you apply to those key milestones that you want to report on, and that's what we'd pick up within this dashboard here. What we're showing is the the difference between the current forecast and the baseline. So this particular activity here of air test is showing as a green bar, but what that green bar actually means is that they're tracking 3.8 weeks ahead of program. So that green bar is actually an improvement on the baseline for that particular milestone. Another example would be milestones that are tracking behind. They'd be shown in red shading. So that's quite a common requirement that these organisations use for reporting up the chain, is just key milestone tracking there. Again, we have the ability to look at milestone trends as well. So how do these milestones and the variance of those milestones change over time? So whilst I'm showing on the screen here is a static snapshot, we can retain the history of that variance and see how that tracks over time. In terms of the project level users and how they get benefit from the dashboard, I think we've had a lot of good feedback around the look ahead functionality. So what we have here is the ability for work package managers to use the dashboard to understand what their short-term work plans should look like. So I'll give you an example here. You have the ability to tailor this to look ahead. In this case, 20 weeks. So I'll pull that back to maybe the next 4 weeks. What I can see in the chart here is that this particular week we've got 37 activities starting, and I can understand what they are from the table below. Equally, we've got 22 activities which need to be finishing. And highlighted in yellow here is what we call WIP activities, so activities that are in progress. So they've had some recorded progress against them. They're not necessarily going to finish within that period, but they're certainly activities that should be monitored. We have the ability to focus on critical activities or even subcritical activities. And we also have the ability, as we do with most parts of this dashboard, to drill down and use trade level filtering. Well, in actual fact, that's code library level filtering. So the code libraries that you set up within your program, they'll all be visible within the dashboard. In this case, we just have the one code library for trades, and I'll focus there on maybe suspended ceilings. So for the next 4 weeks, I've got my work plan for suspended ceilings, and I can even use my codes in combination with different parts of the WBS or the path within the program. So perhaps look at the first floor suspended ceilings in block A. So there's you've got complete flexibility over how you interrogate the data within the dashboard. Just gave you a few examples there. You also have the ability to look aheads in a Gantt chart view. Again, just focused on suspended ceilings for the next 2 weeks, and there's a Gantt chart there for you. Just make sure I've deselected that filter. S-curves is always a great one. So if you're familiar with the EVAR tool within Asta itself, the intent of this is very similar. But again, we give you the ability to very quickly filter the S-curves by any trade, any WBS or path, and any combination of those. But essentially, for those that may not know, the S-curve is essentially visualizing your activity day count or the volume of work within the program based upon its duration. So we have the original plan or the baseline highlighted in white there, and we also visualize the as late as possible position for each of the activities. That's quite often known as a banana curve, and the difference between those two lines there is essentially visualizing or helping to visualize your float on the project. Beyond that, we are tracking your earned progress. So obviously if an activity is 100% progressed, you've earned 100% of the original baseline for that activity. You might not have earned it when you should have earned it, but you've earned it at a point in time. This project is obviously tracking ahead of schedule, and we can see that up here. They're 11 days ahead. So essentially what that means is this earned activity day count of just under 2,200 activity days has been achieved 11 days ahead of schedule. So they should have achieved it at this point in time. And we can also see the rescheduled position as well in terms of what that earned forecast looks like. So a little bit about the S-curve. To the right here, we can visualize starts and finishes. So I can see we're 11 days ahead of program on the activity day count, and it looks like the reason why we're ahead is that we're starting things earlier than was originally programmed. We're starting things early. We're not necessarily finishing things early. So obviously, we want to maintain this position. Maybe we're going to put some focus on finishing those activities as well. And that's also visualized there in that buildup of WIP. So because we're starting things earlier, we're not finishing them, WIP is increasing beyond what was the original intent. So that, again, that might be something to keep an eye on. I'll just give you a quick example of interrogating via either the code library or the path. I'll choose path in this case. So let's take a look at internal works. So internal works is 9 days ahead. Interestingly, if you look at first floor, there's an example of actually the first floor is tracking 9 days behind program, and it looks like they're hoping to accelerate. So that's the S-curve functionality. Moving on to activity status. So the activity status tab just helps us interrogate the status of activities within different parts of the program. So I think we just looked at block A rebuild internal works. But if that rings true because within block A here, I can see there's actually a buildup of activities which are starting to fall behind. I can expand that a little bit further and find out where those activities are. So internal works, we've got 3 late starts and 8 activities which are tracking behind there. And we were just looking at the first floor on the previous page, so I'll just drill into one of those. So we've got 3 activities which should have started but haven't. I can drill through and find out what those activities are. So perhaps the reason why first floor in block A is tracking behind is we can interrogate the data and understand what's holding things back. In this case, underfloor heating and the subsequent screed, perhaps. We can visualize the critical path or the volume of activities on the critical path. This is the critical volume here. But you can also see there's a buildup of activities on subsequent subcritical paths as well. And within each of these segments on the chart, we can drill through and understand what those activities are. So there's one activity behind there on the critical path. I can drill through and see what that is. Some work there on the sports field. And then I briefly mentioned the concept of WIP a moment ago, which was the buildup of activities which have started but not finished. We like to track the stagnation of WIP as well. And there's not a lot of stagnation on this particular project, but we get projects whereby you have multiple columns on this chart. So we've categorized 0 to 30 day stagnation, 30 to 60, so on and so forth. And what this helps you to see is we've had activities which have started, so they've had some recorded progress, but then they've remained stagnant in terms of any further progress from that point forward. Quite often we'll see activities which have not progressed in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months for whatever reason. Again, it might be a data quality issue. Maybe maybe the planner or the site team have just forgotten to record the progress, but at least it's giving visibility of that issue, and it can either be corrected or it could be addressed on site if that activity does need to progress. Again, with all of this, you can filter by critical path, by different parts of the program, so on and so forth. I'm just going to check how I'm doing for time. we've got 15 minutes. I'll whiz through everyone's favourite subject, which is schedule health. Obviously, within Asta itself, you can run the schedule health checks. You can also automate that within Asta Vision, which is fantastic. What the dashboards can also do is help you visualize at the portfolio level. So we have portfolio reports that look at every project's schedule health, and we've done that over portfolios of 150 projects for individual organizations. But then having the ability to drill down and figure out where those quality issues are actually occurring. So some of these, well, most of these checks here are specified within the CIOB planning protocol, and these are stress tests, essentially testing the quality of the schedule, which is really important actually, because when leaders, when project managers, when stakeholders are referring to the dashboard and the insights that are being generated or automated, should I say, like how reliable are those insights that we're getting? And quite often the schedule health checks will give us some indications as to how reliable that schedule actually is. I mean, a classic example would be a schedule that has lots of hard constraints, and when a schedule has hard constraints, so perhaps the rescheduling process isn't working as it should. So we might be historically reporting projects are going to finish on time, but if they've got hard constraints, you'll see that identified within the schedule health page, and most likely you'll also see some strange behaviours in the S curve as well, because you'll see that the earned forecast will be constrained, and it just won't look right, and that will lead to people asking questions of the data, which is exactly what we want, to be quite honest. So giving you a quick example here, we've got 46% activities that are failing the logic types check. So that's too many activities having a start to start or finish to finish relationship. And we can interrogate that a little bit further within the table below to understand where those issues are actually occurring in the schedule. And finally, we can visualize and give some insights into the resource on the job if the schedule is resource loaded. Just very quickly, for any particular week, we can drill through and understand what resource is scheduled to be on the project, and again, all of that is completely filterable. I will use this as a very quick example to demonstrate how we can also integrate with other data sources. So, the first question we often get asked is, "Oh, this is great for visualizing, planned labor, but how do we track actual labor?" So, quite often we'll integrate with turnstile systems on the project and essentially help plot some of the actual labor curves as well. And again, that raises a very good point around data quality and data governance. Getting the coding right between your turnstile system and the schedule is really key to making that work. But yeah, just conscious of time, so I'm probably going to stop sharing now and hand you back over to the team.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel. I feel like we've covered a hell of a lot there. I guess, in summary, for listening to it all, I think the key takeaways I hope everyone gets from that is that there's an exciting future coming. There's some solutions out there and you need to jump on solutions now to get your data right to be able to take advantage of them. But doing that, I think now that, as Daniel's demonstrated there, once you've got your data right, there's things you can be doing today as well to really better measure across your portfolio. We've got a few minutes for questions. I'm going to pose one now to all of you that I haven't posed. I'm not going to ask you it right on the spot now, but just think about it, so come back to it at the end, which is going to be, if you're speaking to someone on this webinar and they're just looking to start this data journey and get modernized with the way that they're thinking about data, what would be your number one bit of advice? And it can't have anything to do with your products. So it can't just be by vision, but that probably is a good bit of advice as well. So first question we've got that came through is, will the recording of the webinar be sent after it's finished? I believe so, yes, not directly after. Give us a day or two and processing, clean it up maybe. But yeah, there will be something going out. We'll come to. I've got a few sent in earlier, and yeah, it's got from Daniel first. Bit of a big one, I guess. Where's AI going? Is it going to replace us all? Our plan is doomed. Is
Just a simple one, not a heavy question,
yeah.
right?
Just look into the future for us again.
Look, AI is just going to get smarter and smarter over time, but the fact of the matter is that the current technology we're on, we're a very, very, very long way for artificial general intelligence, right? When you've got something that's as smart or super smart than a human, we're in a different territory. But for the here and now, for the next 10, 20 years, the AI that we're seeing, it's going to make you more productive, right? It's now been around being used in coding development environments for a while. Everyone at first was like, oh no, all the codes are going to go. The fact of the matter is, no one can really review and check what an AI does for building an application, like for coders, of better than a coder. And for schedulers, it's the same thing, but scheduling is much, much, much more complicated than nice, well-organized software. So it's a case of what it's going to do is it's going to make you much more productive. You're going to be freed up to focus on the things that you should be looking at rather than the tedious workflows that you have to do. So I think it's not going to replace us, not certainly in the near term.
Good. I guess just to follow on from that, we have had a question in as well around the cost of, I guess, where you were talking earlier around data quality being a problem. What is the cost of users, I guess, capturing the data needed to train AI, and what are the processes that they should go around to do that?
So what they should do as the very first thing is they should try to do some reporting on their data, right? Whatever you want to do, just do some reporting on it because you're going to find that your data's wrong. So try to use your historical data or what you're generating now to something, anything, any process you can think of that you want to use it for, do it. And then you'll start to actually find the problems. But the trick is you need to have high quality, good data. One solution is obviously vision, but as long as you start using it for something, you'll find out what the problems are and you will gravitate towards solutions to those.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Coming back to Daniel again, in terms of what you showed, what are the prerequisites for people to get started with this? Where do they need to be at?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the demonstration I gave was a base product. So everything that you've seen there is our insights that you can gain on your current programs as they stand. There aren't really any prerequisites beyond having your data available, and Asta Vision is a fantastic way of making that data available to tools like Fabric and Power BI. Making sure that you've got a baseline to compare against. So obviously an adequately detailed program is helpful to everybody. A baseline, and that you're recording progress regularly. I always find recording progress weekly is a great process. That's what a lot of our customers strive for, but I appreciate that's not always the case. It can be fortnightly or it can be monthly. But really, there are three requisites: make your data available securely, make sure you're tracking against a good baseline, and record progress on your project to make sure that progress is recorded as accurately as possible. Like we all know, there's tools out there that can help you record progress. Make use of them if that helps you gather that data more efficiently. But really, it's not difficult to generate the dashboards I've just shown you on screen there.
Yeah.
At all. They could be up and running within a day, not even.
Yeah, and I've had another question just through actually that's quite interesting because it's one that I had written down as well around further integration. So it was around, will we be able to use 360 cameras to capture site progress? And the question I had down was integration with site progress progress capture tools. I guess I'll just quickly answer that, David, because I've got another one for you. In that, yes, in future, you will be able to. We're developing an API specifically around capture input, progress capture input directly into Vision. Obviously there are the tools within the Asta suite like Asta Connect and Site Progress Mobile which allow you to do that, but we realize that there's so many other tools out there, from you said 360 cameras, things like Build Dots and Simterra and these other guys that we're partnering with, and Autodesk Construction Cloud, that allow you to capture that progress. And we realize that you'll want that to connect to Vision as well. So Vision will become that hub where you can combine that data together and get it back into your master schedule. David, I guess another one for you was around custom workflows, like what can we do within Vision from company to company? Obviously, not everyone wants to work in the same way.
Yeah, we find that every customer has their own workflow. It's very different. We have a professional services team which will assist you with that process, allow you to set up different custom workflows. They'll work with you, understand what you're looking to achieve from that workflow, and then set the Vision platform up specifically for your workflows. They've got lots of experience in terms of rolling that out with different clients, so I'm pretty confident we'll be able to get you up and running very quickly on that as well.
All right, really last quick one to you, Daniel, before we come back to my original question. In the Acumine forecast, what is the basis of the project completion forecast? Does it analyse the critical path, or is it based on a trend analysis? Is the question we've gone through.
So that was the earn forecast that I showed on the S curve. That's essentially looking at the rescheduled position of activities. But quite often what we'll do as well is we'll look at historical trends of pace, and we can project that pace forward as well. So yeah, it's not always wise to rely on that rescheduled position. And yeah, we have different tools in our kit to help you come up and be confident of your end date really. But the forecast I showed you on screen there was quite a simple example. It is literally just your rescheduled program.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Coming back to the last one, Daniel, I guess you've kind of answered this with your previous response around get reporting, right, and find out where your data is. So I guess
I was going to repeat my answer.
Anything to
Basically,
add? No. Yeah.
it's just try to use it for something. That's when you're going to find the problems in it. So pick a problem, pick the biggest business pain that you have. Think of how you should try to identify the problem point there, and just report on it. Right? Use whatever tool you want. Like hopefully use ours. Hopefully use Acumine. But if not, just build your own solution, and you're going to fix your data problems pretty quickly.
I think my final thought would just be to get that visibility of your project performances across the board. For good or for bad, if you've got visibility of the data, you're generating the opportunities to then look at improvements, whether that be in data quality or in business process. But don't hold back. Make sure you know what's happening on your projects, and you've got the ability to do that now.
For me, it's all about consistency is the key word here, which is the nicer way of saying governance. If you can get people doing the same kind of thing in the same way, at least then you're on a level playing field and you can sort of take it from there. Obviously, we're aware that planners can do different things different ways, project managers can do things different ways, but if we can get any kind of consistency across the board, it just makes it so much easier to be able to roll stuff like this out in the future.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks very much for joining, everyone. Really appreciate your attendance. As I said earlier, the recording will come out at some point later in the week. But yeah, thanks for now. And if there is any further questions or any follow-ups, please do drop us an email. Yeah, thanks very much. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, everybody.